Shahid Ali, who's standing for the Liberal Democrats. In the middle, we have Jim Steinke, who's standing for Labour. And on the end, we've got Rob Unwin, who's standing for the Green Party. The candidates are now going to get 5 minutes each to make an opening statement. That's to introduce themselves, explain a little about why they're standing, and something about what their priorities are for Nether, Edge and Shower. So I'm going to kick off going this way this time, and then final comments at the end of the meeting will come back this way. So first off, Shane.
Thank you, Nigel. I'll stand up. That's probably easier. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shahid Ali, the Liberal Democrat candidate in the Nether, Edge and Shower by-election, and I'm going to tell you why I believe I am the best person to be your next councillor. After hearing from Graham yesterday that I had to make an opening speech about myself, I have to think quite hard and long about what I wanted to say here. Obviously, all the candidates are going to make their case, and you're going to hear a lot, I expect, about local routes and all the great work that's been going on locally by all the parties. I mean, for myself, I can talk about being born not too far from here in the old Nether Hospital. Those who remember it, actually, going to local school. But in reality, that doesn't really mean anything. You know, I have many friends who have the same history as me, but don't leave their front door to do anything or add value to anything to the community. So, you know, we have to be practical about this. On Thursday, you have an important responsibility, which is not about just choosing someone due to the party affiliation that they belong to, but choosing the best person who will be working for you and representing you in the council chamber, the most credible candidate across the whole area for the voters. I'm sorry there wasn't enough time to meet everyone. Obviously, I've only had a short time to campaign, but I look forward to answering your questions later and hopefully working with you after today as well. There are many positives in this community. You know, there are many people in the community who work so hard to make this area a rich and vibrant area. You know, all the progress that's been made here is very much down to you people, the community itself. But let's accept facts. You know, we've been let down by a number of councillors over the last few years. You just have, you know, you've seen the literature going out by all of us, probably us more than the other parties that we've sent out the most. But I'm just going to talk about a couple of issues that all parties have mentioned. Antisocial behaviour. Now, councillors attend meetings in this regard. Have you thought about why actions and outcomes have not been mentioned? You know, Bonfire Night 2015 was a dark night in many ways in our area. In the aftermath of that incident, we looked to the councillors for leadership, but they buried their heads in the sand. To accredit the council that has stood down with people to attract the TV cameras. Well, where did we go from there? It all went quiet. You know, myself, I wrote a long email detailing what we had to do as a community and what support the council and police should give to us. And to their credit, the police called an emergency meeting and were opening their dialogue with all of us, with all the community. They were told some harsh truths and they accepted and planned ahead. The council was quiet, and so were the councillors. It was only when I involved the start that John Mothersole, the Chief Executive of the Council, got in contact and asked to meet. And I took a delegation from the community to meet John Mothersole, where basically I laid out a plan of how we should go about tackling issues within the area. And from that, the Aberdeen Stakeholders Group was established. You know, I've delivered change with positive outcomes. I've forced the issue and spoken up, and I don't deny that. You know, I do speak up. I, with the Liberal Democrats, have been involved in the Free campaign from the start. When Calvin and Helen first camped out in Encliffe Park to stop when the rustling road trees were under threat. But since then, we've seen the 5 AM dawn raid, the use of anti-trade union legislation to arrest people. Being a trade unionist myself, I was absolutely disgusted with the Sheffield Labour Party for precluding the police to carry out these arrests. Now we see rising community tension as those seen on St Ronan's Road between the campaigners and residents, which are not good for anyone, especially not for community cohesion in this area. You know, local taxi drivers had issues with the taxi consultation last year, which Sheffield Labour were forced to make a U-turn on, and that was through campaigning by myself with support from Shafat Mohammed of the Lib Dems. You know, this council has made major blunders and continues to do so. I work in mental health in the NHS, that's my professional background, and I've been working in community development for the last 15 years of my life, and that's my working background. I've worked in a wide range of community organisations and institutions locally and nationally. But, we need a community focus to bring all parts of Nether Edge and Sharrow together. I remember it was approximately 4 years ago in this very place where, in partnership with NENG, the Nether Edge Neighbourhood Group, we did a community celebration day. It was a fantastic event and brought the whole community together from the top side of Nether Edge to Sharrow as well. I've got a lot of interests, a lot of things that I do that I can talk about. But, my focus is young people. It's about bringing people together in the area, looking at things to do with young people, empowering them, building community links, getting people together and actually doing what's best for our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Good evening. Just a very little bit about myself in terms, because I want to really talk about policies and how I see kind of the future of Nether Edge and Sharrow. I've lived in Nether Edge and Sharrow for over 30 years and within this side of the city all my adult life really since I left school. And I'm passionate about this area in terms of I've lived in Nether Edge, I now live in Sharrow and spend a lot of time in both. But I kind of recognise the positive things about it, but also those things that are under threat. So I can go on about, walking down London Road, how positive it is in terms of the range of shops, the food there, etc. Going on about the wonderful people who I think live here. I mean, I think when I first came to Sheffield, it was very, very monocultural. I think it is now so diverse. I'm going to go from this meeting tonight in terms of, my wonderful neighbours who are IFTA, in terms of breaking the fast, are going to bring me food. Those kind of things that may seem small, but I think that actually really add up in terms of living in a multicultural place like Sheffield, and particularly this side of the city. But there are things under threat. I mean, there's been references about antisocial behaviour, and I think as a community activist in terms of Sharrow, I have been kind of raising those issues. And I think it is really important that the solutions for that are seen as community solutions. And I think that is really important, that we recognise and have the humility as councillors or as officers to recognise the need for those community solutions that don't necessarily kind of criminalise young people, but also have a kind of zero tolerance of the kind of behaviour that is actually happening. And certainly I've been on the receiving end of that, not as much as certainly some of my neighbours. But there's also things within the area around kind of bus. I was reflecting this morning when I was waiting for the bus. I don't have a car, but in terms of waiting for the bus, and I think there's been a real decline in bus services within Sheffield, and we need to be kind of looking at, as a local authority and all people in terms of within communities, how we actually ensure that to happen. In terms about my personal style, I suppose people often sometimes think it's fairly quiet and determined. I think I am. In terms of my professional activity, and I've spent really a lifetime, although I've been a councillor before for some years, and I feel very proud of that experience, but I feel as proud of the experience of managing projects around homelessness and refugees and migrants over the last few years. And I suppose the strength that I think it's given me to challenge things. And I think that what you would be looking for in a councillor is someone who is actually prepared to both challenge the local authority, challenge kind of potentially vested interest in local communities, but at the same time trying to kind of balance those out. And in terms of my own also experience around just challenging governments of whatever political persuasion, and although I'm standing as a Labour candidate, I recognise that we need to kind of sometimes both form alliances in terms of things that we want to happen, but also be critical of our own parties. In terms of what I'm passionate about at the moment is clearly kind of there's issues within the kind of wider environment, but also the fact that there are growing inequalities in this society, and I think that we need to be looking at, on a local level, how we address that in terms of food banks as a most obvious example, but also ways in which all council services, and as a councillor, yes, you've got that local responsibility, but you've got the wider responsibility in terms of what is still a significant council budget, even though it's been so cut. In terms of the broader view of what I want to do, I think there is, I suppose I have a particular kind of focus on traffic issues at the moment. I've been very clear in my election literature about wanting to support the rollout of the 20 mile an hour zone across Nether Edge and Sharon and across the whole city. I think it's disappointing that it hasn't been done before, and I've been critical of the local authority for that. There are things like also the kind of making sure that the arterial routes, Salter Lane is the most obvious one. We're making some progress there with the local authority in terms of looking at the way that both heavy lorries are stopped going along there and also the speed restrictions. But also I think we need to be creative, and I think this kind of looks at the wider environmental issues around cemeteries, etc., in terms of kind of non-straight roads, kind of ways in which we do creative parking, and the way that we actually kind of build our green spaces more into the community and making sure that they're used for the wider community as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And Rob.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm very proud to be standing as Green Party candidate for Nether Edge and Sharrow, where we already have one excellent councillor, Councillor Alison Teal, who it's very obvious to me how well she's valued when I call people on the doorstep, the kind of work she's been involved in. I've been the key member of the Green team that got the first Green councillor elected in the city in 2004, and all the others since in Central Ward, which has now become divided up and made up of City and Nether Edge and Sharon. I've lived in the local area for around 15 years, worked in the area a bit longer. And my background is in education. I was originally a teacher, now I work in an education advisory service, advising people on global education, which is looking at global issues in the local, helping young people to make sense of the world in which we're living, which is no doubt a much more complex task in recent times. While supporting councillors, I've been involved in a whole range of areas. So, for example, with the first Green councillors, I was part of a group called the Green Tank, and we actually sat down and we had to be involved in budget discussions. So we had to set our budget amendment. At that time, or one time, when the Greens were elected, there was a hung council. So it was absolutely crucial the kind of decisions we were making. So I've had that level of experience in local government. But what I'm most well known for around here is casework and campaigns over many, many years. I brought along a stack of leaflets going back to 2008, a lot from 2010, that illustrate the work I've done, particularly in the Sharrow area of the ward. So, for example, work around child road safety. Jim was referring earlier to the importance of community cohesion, valuing our multicultural community. And one of the things that's been shown through research, but also a lot of practice, is the importance of community resilience. So that's about recognising that we do have more in common, as the slogan goes, and that you can walk up a street, you might find neighbours that don't really know each other, they don't really talk, but they have shared concerns, and one of them is child safety. So we're involved in along with others, getting a zebra crossing on London Road. It's amazing how expensive these things are and how long they take to put in. A Smiley Sid camera on Abdo Road that was there for a while. And then around issues like antisocial behaviour, but also about youth and young people. I think it's a two-pronged approach. There is obviously there's carrot and stick, and I think there should be a lot more carrot. And what we've done is worked with others to improve local facilities. So myself and Councillor Gillian Creasy did a lot of work on Staveley Gardens. We managed to get funding, spent, new basketball hoop. But more importantly, there was a whopping great drop from a wall into a neighbouring property that kids could have fallen down. And we managed, through a lot of negotiation, to get a new fence put up so it's now safe for children to play in. We're also involved in getting the cricket nets repaired back in 2010. In Mount Pleasant Park, putting a large fence up to stop the balls going into the adventure playground. And that's just one of the approaches in terms of antisocial behaviour, but also keeping an eye on making sure that policing is sensitive, but also appropriate where it needs to be. We've been involved in tackling the parking permit rises, a whole range of issues around street, the less glamorous stuff, to be quite frank. Street and gully cleaning, mice problems, disabled access, getting curbstones lowered so people in wheelchairs can get around Sharrow and London Road. lots and lots of personal casework, including preventing somebody getting deported a few years ago. So if anyone's interested, there's a lot of background details on that. But my vision, what would I seek to do if I was elected? My vision is to make the slogan, Sheffield, the greenest city, actually mean something in terms, not just prettiness and greenness, but actually in terms of tackling climate change, in terms of air quality, greener transport, insulated homes, renewable energy, local food growing, and valuing our mature street trees. Okay, thank you. Amazing how fast it goes. With the cutbacks, the quality of the environment has been deprioritised, and our air quality currently breaches EU limits. Our urban forest is being depleted and exacerbated by a secretive contract with a large multinational corporation. If elected, I would join our 4 green councillors and push for ways to make it easier and cheaper to use the car less, to insulate our homes and install solar panels. And I'm going to have to stop there, but thank you very much.
Thank you to all our candidates who were remarkably close to time, so that's good. Now, before I pitch it open to the audience for questions, you may have noticed there are 1 or 2 people around with cameras, and one Jen from the Asian Network, Graham down here from the Green Party. I've noticed Baruf has got his camera out as well. They are going to be mainly concentrating on videoing these guys at the front. If during the question session you don't want to be recorded in any way, shape or form, let me know before you ask your question, and I will ask them to turn off their recording devices. Okay? Good. Right, so, now I've only got 1 pair of eyes, so I'm going to want to put my hands right up here. And can we start? Who wants to be first? Gentleman there.
Obviously the events at Grenfell Tower, I think, have been, well, personally, find quite horrific. Over the tower block at bottom of London Road, just been sitting and doing maths, so probably there's 3 town blocks, so there'll be 600 people. So quite a number of the people that we voted for yourselves within those blocks. I wonder what your views are as to how safe you think they are, and what steps need to be taken to make sure that they are safe.
Okay, I'll start so far in this time with Rob.
As you're probably aware, there have been some fire, I believe anyway, there have been some fire safety checks carried out from Monday onwards, which is to be welcomed, and some reassurance of residents that the materials used in the Levertons are much less flammable, in fact they're supposedly inflammable compared to the ones at Grenfell Tower. Also there are 2 stairwells, but there are question marks about sprinklers. And I would welcome it if the council would actually publish the results of the fire safety inspections to reassure the residents that it is safe, there are correct procedures, we are following the right procedures, and I really believe that we owe that to all residents to reassure them after these terrible events.
Jim?
It's very timely, and I think that anyone that's seen those images can't help but be moved. To add to what Rob said, I think there has been the internal housing services assessment of that. There's also a fire service assessment, and I think it's really important that that is kind of published as well, as Rob said. There is actually a meeting being organised tomorrow morning between Councillor Mohammed Maroof and the local Tara, the Leverton Tara, which is both partly about it's actually 150 properties in the 3 car blocks have been leafleted and there's been kind of posters for that. Partly to reassure there'll be people there from the fire service and the housing service. But I think it's also important that we don't kind of jump to easy solutions, because like sprinklers obviously seem a good thing, but there's been some kind of debate that I've been looking at is a bit about the full sense of security that may give as well. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be done, and there is a tenant's petition which I would be supporting, but I don't think we should jump into full sense of security when it needs to be looked at the flats as a whole.
Thank you. Shane?
Okay, obviously what's happening in Grenfell Towers would be is horrific, and I think there'll be some immediate learning coming out of that as well through the fire service. And I think one of the immediate things that needs to be done is take that learning and look at how if another inspection needs health and safety inspection, fire inspection needs to be done of the 24 tower blocks in Sheffield. But just before I actually came in, I saw something on the news that the council agreed to install sprinkler systems in all 24 blocks. So that's probably positive from this, and it's sad to see actually that that's happening now because of what's gone on. It hasn't been in there before, especially some of those that are closed, like Nether Gardens, that are really high up. To be honest with you, I can't imagine living there. I don't know how people are actually coping at this moment in time. So, thank you.
I can confirm what Shay's just said. There was a tweet sent out by Jane Dunn, who's cabinet for housing, earlier this evening, about 3 hours ago, stating that the council will be installing sprinklers in all Sheffield's tower blocks. So,
What timescale would that be?
that is yet to be determined.
It could be 10 years, it could be insane, what could be 10, 20 years.
This is amongst some of the questions I'll be asking at the cabinet meeting tomorrow. So hopefully you might get some comment coming up on social media later.
A quick question about that, just so I can be very brief. There are a number of people in those blocks who are fairly mobile, elderly, etc., disabled, and obviously you've got these lifts and fires. Should they be housed there if they don't want to be? Should they be moved priority?
Yes, no answer from you guys, please, Shay?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say obviously it should be a matter of importance straight away for the council to rehouse them if that is what they wish, especially if they have mobility issues. I mean, you know, if you're on the 6th, 7th floor on Nether Gardens, it's going to be difficult to come down in an emergency anyway. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if they have any fire drills or anything like that that goes on in those places. Maybe they need to introduce something.
Okay, Jim?
I think I've spoken to a lot of tenants, partly just for the election activity and partly just kind of through discussions with the meeting with the Tara Tenants Association there. I think it's mixed views. I think that a lot of people really like living there, and I think that if they want to continue to live there, then they should. I think if people do feel insecure, then we should be looking at ways of people being housing. But I think it would be wrong to assume that everyone is unhappy. And certainly I just really remember someone who was talking to who was a refugee background there, who basically said that this was the best place they'd ever lived until they turned on the TV at one last week. And I think it's the assurance, and this is what tomorrow's meeting I think is really about. It's about the assurance, but also not pretending that there's easy solutions. Sprinklers are important, but they're not the full solution.
It's about should people be given priority to move if they wish to.
Yeah.
That was the question.
Rob?
Yes, I mean, completely agree. It should be top priority if they wish to be moved. But I think we should go further than that and work on. We've had children at height policies and so on, so we should have policies as well that say we wouldn't advise this. If you really want to live there, we need to know that you're safe. If you're not, if there is a fire or something happens.
Okay, thank you. Right, and then you lady. Or a woman. Or a girl. I don't know how you start. Lady on in.
I'm wondering about pollution. What ideas have you got to reduce pollution in the area and incentives to stop people reduce the amount of cars on the road? Alexander Road is horrific. So that's in Woolwich. A lot of residents.
Okay, so the next main question. We'll start this end with Shane.
Obviously the first one, stop cutting trees down. But that's what's happening in a minute. Whilst out door knocking, I met one of the residents on Sanford Grove Road, and she turned out to be the old lollipop lady on the corner of Sanford Grove Road and Sheldon Road. And she was there for about 20, 30 years, I think she said. Well, she was there when I was a kid, anyway, when I used to go to school. And what she said was that in the mornings, you could see the smog on Aberdeen Road 30 years ago. But as the trees have matured, the smog's disappeared, and that for me is a direct correlation. And we know that the science is behind that. The trees are good for the environment. But going further, I think I was reading somewhere a couple of weeks back that in Germany, Stuttgart and Dresden, places like that, they started to put moss walls in place. Apparently, a moss wall that cost £20,000 does the work of 200 trees. So we have to look at innovative ways of working and with innovative solutions. Obviously, cars are going down the route of become electrified, hybrids are coming in, and that will happen over time. I'm sure. They're looking at getting rid of diesels in a few years, so that's happening. But we have to look at other solutions as well.
Thank you. Jim?
To reduce car use within society as a whole. And I think we as a society have to address this issue. Diesel is clearly an issue that needs to be addressed, and we know that's a public health disaster. But the problem is it's wider than that. It's a bit about how we move to a lower car use society, and I think what we can do is limited in terms of, that's a national, international policy, but locally we need to make it easier for people not to use cars. And that ranges from walking bikes to buses. That's my preferred form of transport. But we just need to kind of grow up and recognise that we cannot continue at this level of kind of pollution and in terms of use of private automobiles.
Thank you, Jim. Rob?
We need a new air quality action plan, and there has been a petition. The Green Party have been working very hard on that. We're quite disappointed with the Council's response. There's a lot of talk. There's also talk about, we've got to think about the economy and so on. We're actually breaching the European safe limits for nitrogen dioxide, and there's no safe limit for particulates, and those are high. So I agree with Jim, a lot of it is about car use. Obviously the trees mitigate nitrogen dioxide and particulates to a certain degree, but it's largely about car use, getting people out of their cars. There's lots that can be done. Awareness campaigns, safer cycle routes, more pleasant, safer walking routes, improving. We had a bus quality action plan which hasn't really got off the ground very well. A lot can be done to support low emission vehicles, more electric charging points. The council has had some success in applying for grants to help people convert away from diesel, which is the biggest problem. I think there's one more thing we can do which would raise awareness, and that is that those of you who've got smartphones, you can download an app called Air Visual, and it will tell you what the air quality is like in Devonshire Green. Now, if we could spread them out and monitoring stations, if you go on runs or if you go to work in certain parts of the city, you'll be able to get a reading. It will tell you if it's unsafe for people with asthma or respiratory problems. So it's about, they do that in China. You've seen films of people in China wearing masks and so on. They check their data every day. If you live in Beijing or somewhere like that, it could be a matter of life and death whether you expose yourself to that level of pollution day after day. And I think we just need to get wise, and we need to see it as a tangible thing, and something on the smartphone that we can see what it's doing to us will really help. But a whole lot of work needs to be done.
Yeah, just like to say, I've seen Chinese students near the town hall about 2 or 3 years ago walking around with masks then, which gives you an idea of the scale of the pollution we're getting in the city.
Interestingly, there is quite a lot of data out there. There's a Sheffield company, if I remember right, called Flow Systems, who have monitoring points stationed all around the ring roads, or the ring road in Sheffield, and they are able to monitor pollution levels on the ring road on a not quite live basis, but on a very regular basis. So a lot of data is out there. It's whether it's being used and whether it's being tackled in the right way. Okay, I need a gent. Young chap at the front.
Jim's really the only person who mentioned anything about bus fares. I get the bus, I say, probably once a day. And 80p for a child to get on the bus. It's risen from 70 to 80 while I've been at secondary school, and I'm in Y8 now. And I think 80p is still too much. I mean, I go visit my cousins in London quite a lot, and they get free bus fare, free travel for under 16s, I think. And I think also I'm sure many of you have heard of the Bright Bus, which is a school service that runs, and it's actually closing down in probably about 4 weeks. But a lot of buses have stopped running because people drivers have left. But that costs 80p as well, and I think it's awful for childcare to be 80p, but school travel as well to be 80p, I think is outrageous. But so what are your opinions on that?
Well, that takes me back to my youth when bus fares across South Yorkshire were 0. for children. Rob?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a deregulation of buses that's caused the problem. And we keep trying to put pressure, and not just the Greens but others, to try and get quality bus plans, which means you've got control over fares, frequencies and routes to make sure that everybody, to make it as easy as possible to go on the bus and leave the car behind for adults and for children going to school. And that's just not happened. There's not enough will nationally from national government. I don't think there's enough happening locally to make that happen. It's absolutely crucial. But we need, there are like green transport plans where council will go to schools, they'll go to businesses, employers, and talk about various options, one of which will be bus, but it's also cycling and walking, just looking at a range of different options to get people out of their cars.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I'm also old enough to remember the old South Yorkshire bus, wasn't it? So it is.
I didn't say old, Jim.
Mature enough. And it is stunning if you kind of look at how it changes a bit. But what I think is also important, is just picking up your point, Sonny, is if you look at what is happening elsewhere, and the service in Sheffield, I think, has become particularly bad. I mean, going to other kind of cities in the north, the service isn't great.
I mean, I've got a bus that was 40 minutes late.
Yeah. And I think the issue is a bit about that, about not just about the bus itself and how frequent they are and where they go. And I think there is an issue about bus routes, but there's also about knowing when the bus is coming. One of the most frustrating things I find when I'm waiting for a bus is that you're standing there. The timetable bears no relation to reality. And yet that electronic system that's also supposed to tell you in real time when the bus is coming bears no relation to often reality as well. So I think we need to get smarter about how we manage the bus service, apart from all the obvious things that Rob said that we need to be looking at nationally.
Thank you. Shane?
That's a really interesting question, actually. Just linking it back to the last question as well a bit, I think we have to, what is it that we want to do as a country and as a community going forward? If we want people to come out of the cars and start using public transport, start using bicycles, etc., then we have to start when they're young. When you're forcing kids not to go, well, for example, it's easier for me and cheaper for me to get in my car, take my wife and kid to town, which is probably a mile and a half down the road, than it is to get on a bus. I mean, we'll walk sometimes, but because we have shopping to bring back, we'll take the car. But the bus stops on the doorstep, but it costs us more to take the buses to town and back than it does to go in the car. And that's what we have to look at. We have to do a cultural change within ourselves, within how these services are provided. 80p for a child is a lot. And luckily my son's only 8 yet, so he's not going out and about by himself. But I know when the time comes, 80p adds up one way, 80p the other way. I remember when it was 2 pence when I was a child. But I think there should be some subsidies in place. Obviously the buses, previous candidates have said, the buses need to be taken into account. We need to look at and work with those organisations and businesses to see how they can improve. But we need to look at what is it that we want at the end. If we want young people to be using public transport more going forward, rather than jumping into a car at the age of 18, then we have to build in that bit of work that, let's go, keep going on a bus. You'll like it because it's cheaper and you'll keep doing it as you go older. Thank you.
Okay. You'd be interested to know, obviously, that councils aren't actually responsible for the buses, per se. It's South Yorkshire Passenger Transport Executive. And they're only one of 4 councils that have input to how that system works. And if it happens next year and we elect a mayor, then the mayor will be the person responsible for it, and the council will lose all ability to actually control the buses. So that'll be fun for you. Lady over there was next.
It's another traffic one, I'm afraid. How difficult is it to implement traffic calming measures, be it the humps or speed cameras? Because where I live, it's not NIMBYism. I think it applies to lots of areas in Nether and Sharrow. Boy races. The drive from one end of Hustings Home Road to Montgomery Road, put the foot down. Sorry to bring it, Asian weddings, it's particularly bad with the high performance cars, there's a trend in that, and you literally have to jump out of the way. And I'd just like to know how difficult would that be I think we need a speed camera on Montgomery Road.
Start at this end this time, Shane.
I completely agree with you. Having lived on Montgomery for 5 years, and hearing those engine booms at midnight as well, especially. I mean, for a long time now, we've had the road issues, but we've had bumpy roads and potholes, etc., which has actually kept traffic quite slow. But now with all the new roads going in, it naturally people start driving faster because the road is smoother. We haven't had to tackle this issue for a long time now because of the speed bumps on the other areas that were implemented years ago. Going forward, I think traffic calming measures will have to be implemented. I know for a fact I've already seen them driving quite insanely at Brundle Road, places like that.
Well, they race each other.
Yeah, they go up and down the road.
Yeah.
I've seen it miles now, and I think something has to be done. Obviously, it requires a bit of thought because I don't think you can get speed bumps on that road for some reason. The buses go down there as well and stuff. So I think obviously in liaison with the police and the councillors and the highway agency itself, a solution should be thought out.
Yeah, Jim?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's crucial that the council kind of address this issue if it's serious about rolling out the 20 mile an hour zone. Partly that both there's physical barriers to stop it, but also there's legal barriers. So if I take the legal barriers first, it should be easier to prosecute people who do that and actually having evidence. And there's one of the problems about speed cameras is that, you know, in terms of how often that evidence can get challenged. And I think there are some community initiatives, certainly kind of the work that in terms of one of the community organisations as well, we've been looking at in terms of the speeding along Abbeydale Road and the idea of the police that raises it, or idea of kind of community zappers where you can actually, you know, shops, local residents can actually kind of record themselves if they feel that someone's doing that, rather than waiting for to call the police and then actually work on the camera. I think the cameras are kind of one solution, but I think it's got to be more sophisticated than that. One of the things I've been disappointed about the Amy contract is that about reconfiguring the roads, because I think, yes, humps work, but the problem is that often they're counterproductive because people slow down, get over the hump and then speed up again. In terms of accidents, lots of accidents are happening during that acceleration period. So it needs to be a cultural change. And it is possible. I mean, certainly in terms, because you gather I'm passionate about this, but looking at what's happened in Rotherham and Hull, where, you know, I've seen this in practice, where there has been the reshaping of roads. You know, I described earlier about having bendy roads, you know, where you shape the road to kind of the speed. And I think that there's a Walthamstow in London is a scheme that I want to go and have a look at. So I think we just need to be bold about it, really.
Rob?
Okay, a lot of it's been covered by the other candidates. I think one of the key things is having a 20's plenty campaign, 20 mile an hour as the default mileage on residential streets. And Greens have campaigned that for many years. Labour brought it in, but only around schools, and gradually extending. But I think we've got to have the courage and the vision to roll it out right across the city, so it becomes the norm, so that everyone expects no one to be doing more than 20 miles an hour in a residential area. So if those people who do break rules are easier to catch, they stand out more, community zappers, whatever it takes, enforcement is needed for those minority of individuals who really push their luck to the limit. Just one extra thing to add, obviously schemes like home zones and so on are great if you can alter the shape of the road, but actually 20 miles an hour is speed limit as a default is going to be more affordable than a lot of engineering works. But just one thing to add, there's quite a lot of research out there that shows how valuable street trees, particularly mature trees, which have got a good sized trunk, in keeping pedestrians safe. Motorists actually behave better where there are street trees, as stats from all over the world. It's because there's a much greater, more visible physical barrier between the road and the curb and the pedestrians. It looks like a tighter space. So that's another thing to throw into the mix.
Thank you, Rob. Now, a gent over there and then a lady over here. So, gent over there first.
Thank you. I was only saying, the report said, I would consider doing the speed is increased on modern document stuff. We probably had a couple of footpaths and maybe else in surrounding areas. My son's 22. We've just been quoted £7,500 to drive to get insured for a car. Most of these people driving these cars, if properly investigated and report it, will not be insured because it's physically impossible to establish whether we get the money if they're driving under the correct name. So the cars will be confiscated, and that's the way forward. Report it to 101.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who
Hang on.
aren't sure who drive.
So,
There's a lot of people who still drive. Sorry.
George Anthony. There wasn't a question in there, sir. Do you have a question as
what
well?
you're saying to people, report it, and they need to support the police, the councils, if you get in touch with them to do that, to take these cars off the road, or to confiscate them with drivers who are illegally driving, which is most the case. When you do report it, it's been my experience with quad bikes and the other people tearing around at midnight making no noise.
Okay, so that's it, Rob.
Yeah, I just endorse that. Yeah, absolutely.
I do also.
Jay?
Yeah, I do agree with you, but one of the things is that a lot of young people hire these high performance cars during wedding seasons, etc. And that's when the issues occur. I mean, there are some local lines as well, sports cars and the
No noise registration.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I've seen them as well myself. But the high performance cars are through rental companies. I think the V 21 you can rent the car out and spend a lot of money doing it. And then they think they can drive like crazy as well, which is unfortunate. So.
Thank you. I've got a lady in red and the gentleman.
Hi, I request everybody asking a question. Can you stand up? This room echoes a lot and we hardly hear sitting in the back. Thank you, madam. You're doing a great job by trying it. My question and personal interest, obviously, into declaration of interest, I will have it. I am a private tenant. I am absolutely worried about my safety in my own house because when I moved in, there wasn't even a handrail, which is illegal to rent a property without a handrail. And I had to ask my landlord, and he provided it. It's brilliant. But what are you guys going to do? Because there is a lot of student houses, there is a lot of private rented houses, and they are absolutely devastated condition, and people's lives are in danger. What are you guys doing locally and nationally to incorporate your legislation, your laws, or your policies to incorporate locally, and how are you going to save us? Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Start at this end, Michelle.
Okay. I think that question comes from a statement I made, which I will back up. One of the leaflets that Jim's put out, he said that he'd like to introduce a landlord licensing scheme in the area of Nether and Shire. Now, the issue here for me is that the only place in Sheffield where that licensing scheme is in place is in Page Hall, in a very specific area of Page Hall as well. It's not being carried out anywhere else in Sheffield. Now, we're being compared to Page Hall and the problems that Page Hall has. I had something to do with I worked in that community as well quite a bit, and at that time I know why it was incorporated. A, because of the quality of housing. B, because of the issues they had around social behaviour, and other issues. In this area, there are a number of landlords who use letting agents who are fantastic, and I've spoken to a number of letting agents over the last few days. And what they say to me is, look, we have so many procedures to follow by law. We have to make sure there's fire alarms, fitted fire alarms, carbon monoxide sensors. We have to make sure they have the gas safety certificates, the electric safety certificates, and there's so many things they have to do. And this area isn't a poor area. It has some really good housing stock. People come and pay a lot of money to rent houses in Nether and Shire. And to label every landlord here as poor isn't quite right. There's enough in law to be able to take landlords to task locally, and maybe we need to do a bit of awareness raising that the council has a department that looks after it. I've got a neighbour who rents his house out next door, and his backyard was an absolute mess. It was a jungle, and he wouldn't clear it up. I complained to the council, and the council actually has got involved and dealt with it, and he's had to sort it out. There's enough precedence in law to actually be able to do these things. That's not saying there are rogue landlords who keep properties in dire condition, and we know there are. That's not hiding the fact. But I think people have to be educated about their rights as tenants, and what they can do, what they can't do. Tenancy deposit schemes were brought in years ago because of the issues of landlords not giving deposits back. And then another number of measures that are in place. So I think we have to look at this realistically. The landlord licensing scheme in Page Hall is there for a specific reason. If you want to incorporate Nether and Sharrow, why not the rest of the city? Why not this like Burngrave where the housing is very poor as well? Why not in Netherthorpe where Councillor Neil Gibson has said the housing stock and the landlord's absolutely rubbish? Why not in those areas? Why in Nether and Sharrow?
Landlords, poor landlords, every day break this. Bad landlords, rather. If you go into the Sheffield Citizens Advice, go to the one in Sharrow, the room will be full of that. I've made it very clear in terms of, and I've just talked to a number of landlords about this, a number of people in the community, and a number of private rented tenants. The issue is about bad landlords. Most landlords, most of the smaller landlords, I think are really good. They provide an absolute valuable service in terms of the housing market at the moment. But it's actually, it brings shame on those good landlords, the fact that there are a small number of road landlords who get away with it. There's various ways of getting tough on that. Licensing is just one part of it. There needs to be a dialogue between the local authority, local communities, and landlords itself. But it's not just about the people living in those properties, but it's neighbours who are having to put up with poorly managed properties. But I need to be very clear. What I'm about is about supporting good landlords and getting heavy on bad landlords.
Thank you, Jim. Rob.
Okay. I broadly agree with that. I've got a colleague who works in private sector enforcement, which is a part of the council that monitors landlords, and they are extremely under-resourced. They could do with a much, much larger team. And if we're going to prioritise this, which we should, especially if our minds have been taken onto the whole issue about fire safety, an extreme example. There are many other less extreme examples, but nevertheless, where people are being put in danger through damp. I've been to many, many properties where children are suffering from asthma because of the damp in the property. We really need to get tough on it, using existing laws that we can, to consider a scheme. I'm certainly open to considering that, consulting local landlords and tenants as well, getting it right. But the key thing is private sector enforcement. We need to have a much larger team in the council.
Thank you, Rob. Go to the hat.
So the planning department in Sheffield, do you not think, you think like traffic and pollution things, do you not think they should take into account that bit more? Things like compulsory cycle parking and things? Because as I was told, as long as it's not endangering highway, they'll put it through whether parking affects local residents or anything. They sort of put it through and told me basically it's pointless object to something.
Thank you. So I can't understand it, Rob.
Okay, I'm certainly very strongly in favour of a different kind of prioritisation. If we really are trying to have a modal shift, if we're trying to get people to walk, to cycle, to use the bus instead of their cars, then we've got to prioritise things like good footpaths, good cycle lanes. And that
Just come back on that one minute, sorry. Because I was at this local council, I sent them pictures of the development they were doing. People parking on pavements, blocking pavements, everything.
Yeah.
They still said that's not our problem, that's the police. And still put the development through.
We've got to be, I mean, there are things that can be done, double yellow lines, enforcement around parking, especially on corners, which is extremely unsafe. It can block, I understand there was an absolutely dreadful fire here a few years ago and a family perished. And somebody told me one of the reasons was people parked on the curve, so the emergency vehicles were slowed right down. It's absolutely crucial.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, just, I think it's cycleways are one way of doing it. I think we need to be looking at more creative ways of doing cycleways as well. I mean, on the issue of Salter Lane at the moment, where the local authority are likely to be bringing in kind of restrictions there, the local people who are living in the area around Salter Lane have been raising the issues about what kind of cycle routes would be most effective there. So I think it's as Rob said, it's about being creative. I think the other issue for this is actually about making sure that footpaths we do have good footpaths as well as good roads. And that is actually also the point I think that Rob was referring to as well, is making sure that kind of dips, to the road are actually just things I was picking up this morning is where cars are blocking tips, you know, the slips to the road. We need to kind of enforce that. The idea that somehow people are saying it's the police responsibility or local authority responsibility, I think as elected members we've got to cut through all that.
I think one of the things that we have to realise is that in every household these days, especially multi-member households, there are a number of vehicles in that house. The husband might have one, the wife and the child or the young person. And with new builds, and I think they need to take that into account, especially about parking space in the front drive and outside on the road. As for cycle lanes, I mean, one of the things that I'm actually shocked about is there's a number of places in Nether especially where there's some cycle routes which are never used, or for example Safford Grove Road has that little hump of a cycle where top of Gatefield Road where it takes a left. It's never used, there's cars parked on there. I think we have to really be engage the cycling community to look at, you know what, which is the best area for you to ride on. You know, you don't want to put cycle routes in just for the sake of cycle routes, and cyclists don't use them. We need to use, I mean, there's a creative way of doing things, I'm sure. You know, the canal, the river, or the river down towards the city centre, there's some paths down there that are used. I'm sure we can build something coming out. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a cyclist. Obviously, you know, I'm not a cyclist. But I'm a car user, and one of the things that I've seen, I mean, I've got a diesel. I'll be honest with you, I'm trying to get rid of it. I looked at buying a Nissan Leaf, one of these new electric vehicles. I'm just looking into that. But the one thing that puts me off at this moment in time is the lack of charging points and lack of parking spaces for those charging points, especially when you go out of the city, but inside the city as well.
Thank you, Shane. You just want to come back on that briefly, please?
I was more like talking about when planning around commercial premises things, and they don't put any provision for cycling, parking or anything, and they don't consider the parking in the area for cars where they block a cycle route or they block a pavement totally, so that discourages them from walking or cycling or anything. And near me, it's been a really prime example, and it's shocking. You can't even, residents can't park, kids can't play on the street anymore. It's dangerous. And basically, the planning department told me that's not a major problem, that they're not going to count that into their decision.
So, briefly.
So we just need a major change in planning.
Should planning take control of commercial premises and their parking?
Of course it should. Of course it should, you know.
Jim?
Yes, of course it should.
Rob?
Yes, and there is legislation that can sometimes mean that the developer has to pay money, so that it can cover its own costs.
Thank you. Lady in the grey jacket over there.
Okay. I'd like to talk about our green spaces. I live on Vincent Road in Sharrow. We're not blessed with many trees on that road, and none of us have very big gardens. So for me and my family and other residents, our beautiful local park is a very, very important space for us, for our social, emotional and physical well-being. Now, I've read through all your leaflets, and I notice every one of you make claims about stuff that you've done in the park. Some of them very general, some of them specific. What I'd like to know is, what have you done recently to support the upkeep of the park, to improve perceptions of the park as a safe place, and to address any antisocial behaviour in or around the park? And whether or not you are elected, what you intend to do in the future. Because I realise only one of you is going to be elected, but I think it's important that we carry on with this work in the future. Thank you.
Just for clarification, is that Mount Pleasant Park?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Starting at the end with Rob.
Okay. I've got various photographs here of when we did some work on the cricket net.
In 2010.
It was 2010, but it badly needed doing, and it's 3 of the 4 nets are still in use. I know they need improving. My colleague, Councillor Alison Teal, has worked with local groups and identified some funding, and now I understand there is some funding with a donation as part of it that will help pay for new surfaces, astroturf, etc. There's also been work done on the lighting. Greens are very involved in Shower Festival, the recycling and so on. So we very much support the work. If I was elected, I would get involved in trying to map Pleasant Park and do it systematically rather than just from canvassing and so on. And other parks as well. They are the lungs of our city, absolutely.
Thank you, Rob.
I think it's recorded in my literature that I am an active friend of Mount Pleasant Park and also the Shower Litter Pickers. But what I particularly want to say about that is has been said, is that they clearly are the lungs of the city, and Mount Pleasant Park, and it's called Mount Pleasant Park, not Shower Park, is one of the significant parks, most significant park within the ward. And it's used by such a wide range of people. You're going there different times of day, and we need to kind of make sure that people feel safe in that park. And I think that I would like to feel that I was part of what, as part of the Abbey Dale Corridor Stakeholders Group, where we actually kind of work with the police, with other members of the local community and with the local authority in terms of resolving some of the antisocial behaviour issues that came up there over the last 2 years. But we've got to constantly monitor it, and certainly there was a meeting tonight that the corridor where we were actually recognising that we were making preparations for the summer to ensure that kind of there wasn't a recurrence of this. But it's also small things in the park. The fact is that there's now 2 benches as opposed to 4 benches on the front side. One of the things it may seem trivial, but I think it's important for people using it, is I would want to restate the 4 benches actually were in that park until very recently. And finally, I just want to say about that is that it's those kind of ways in which the involvement of local residents are the lifeblood of that park. And whoever is a local councillor, I think, needs to be have humility, accept that the driving force of that park and other parks in the city, and it's amazing what's happening in the city, is actually people that are kind of the community engaged with them.
Jim,
Julie knows I've been around a while now. Keep going about the cricket nets. That is a personal favourite of mine. I'm involved in a local cricket league. I'm on the committee. We've got 7 full-time teams from the local area that play in there. And about a year and a half ago, it was actually recognised that the cricket nets weren't fit for use. They were dangerous. Basically, it was just accident waiting to happen. And I wrote an email to councillors a while back about this. I met with Michelle from the council, the project officer from the council, and one of the things that they highlighted was that they had money for the nets, just for the nets on the outside, but the nets weren't the problem was the surface. Now the surface is roughshod, it's worn away, it's concrete, and it's dangerous. And one of the things that we said, the league and myself met with the council, and we said, look, we need surfaces. We need proper astroturf surfaces on here, and they're a lot of money, they cost a lot of money. And luckily, because we had links with the ECB through a gentleman called Gareth, I think they have now agreed to provide those surfaces. We don't need full pitches, we just need half the batting side of it, which thankfully, I think, from what I hear, end of this month, there's meant to be some funding from the police, section 22, that dropped out. But there's some other funding coming in at the end of the month to enable that to happen. But it's not just about these cricket nets, it's about being there, being involved. The issue around antisocial behaviour happened on Top Corner, which is just run next to the park. There's been a history of antisocial behaviour in that park. It's an easy access route to run into and run out of. But we have to work with these young people. It's not going to happen overnight. These are the young people that we have to engage, and we have to engage well. What we can't do is take away youth activities that has been happening over the last number of years. We have to look at innovative ways of working. Phil Linton and yourself do the Shower Litter Pick, fantastic. We've been going around the Water Road area now. It's just a spin-off from that. It was an idea that being involved in that has gone on and doing it somewhere else as well, which is fantastic. And it's a real great community feel. But that park is now used by young people a lot, with kids, with families at the weekend, And if we can, that surface area on the other side where the cricket nets are, utilise a lot more by local, especially over the summer, I think we'd drive a lot of that antisocial behaviour away and we'll give them some purposeful activities to do.
Thank you, Shane. Our cameraman.
Thank you, Nigel. A 3-point question, and it's about trees.
We've done well, I would assume.
Firstly,
It's not past 8 gone. It's our first actual tree question. I'm impressed.
Firstly, how can we change the council policy of chopping down mature, healthy trees? Secondly, why are the council not using the engineering solutions available to them so that when a curb is slightly out of alignment because of the tree, or if there's slight ripples on the pavement because of the tree, why aren't we using things like FlexiPave, which should be available within the contract? And thirdly, why are the council wasting so much money on the independent tree panel when the council then completely ignore what they suggest? Thank you.
We're starting with Rob, and I recognise that it is Rob playing to his strength, but we're just doing it alternatively. So, Rob.
Thank you. It's not sustainable what's happening now. We've had examples in the last week, really, where you've had 4 crews going to try and catch an undefended tree before the protesters get there. There were 4 on Haverfield Road, for example, in Bowmary. We've had a tree chopped down on Albany Road just earlier this week. The tree protesters are not going to go away. There may be a smaller number who will actually be out there prepared to cross the barriers, get arrested or not get arrested these days, but they are a tip of an iceberg and they represent very, very deep sentiment. And it's not a NIMBY middle class issue. It's something, there's some research that indicates that trees living in a green environment can increase your life expectancy by 7 years. And that's not to mention all the benefits around reducing the temperatures on days like yesterday, reducing the risk of flooding by slowing down the water, the flood runoff rates and so on, and just general mental health and actually providing a cleaner environment, filtering the nitrogen dioxide and so on. I thought this question might be coming up, so I did actually bring a visual aid. So I'm a great fan of bubble wrap. People saw me popping it and thought, perhaps they thought I was nervous at the beginning, I might have been. But basically, if you imagine, you probably can't see from where you're sat, but imagine each of these bubbles represents £1 million. Sorry, £1,000. Okay. Let's get this right now, £1 million, okay. It's a lot, it's big figures, and people get bamboozled by figures, and I do as well. So I think it's sometimes quite helpful. So each of these bubbles is £1 million, okay? Here are 1,000 bubbles. Sorry, 2,000, these are 2,000 bubbles here. So that is £2 billion. That is the size of the council contract with Amy, okay? Second, Exhibit B is, okay, it's 25 and I've torn them, but the 25 million is the real sort of top limit that Julie Dore, when pressed, would say it would cost to save probably 300 street trees in the worst condition. If I break a tiny bit off, so we've got half a million, that's 500,000. That is the amount that the independent arborists employed by Stag reckon it would cost. So let's be fair, it's probably somewhere in between. When you look at that, you know the difference. If you fold this in half, that's the council revenue budget. So it's still quite small. It's significant. Don't get me wrong. The council is an environment of horrendous cuts, and we've done the worst possible thing by having so many private contracts, PFI agreements. The finance chap, Eugene, I always say careful with that act, Eugene, if anyone knows that reference. He was director of finance in the council. He talked about the graph of doom. The graph of doom is basically externally national government is cutting the revenue support grant, and at the same time, so you're getting cuts from the outside, at the same time you've got rising costs from your contracts with Veolia, with Amy, with others. So you get a point where the two graphs meet, then you've got no money left for adult social care, and that is why the government is lifting the cap, because they're recognising that local authorities are going to go under because they cannot cope financially with austerity. So, what I'm saying is, there is a cost involved. It's absolutely clear that people value these trees hugely. I met somebody the other day who said they're taking 5 days off work to protect their tree, passionately, almost like members of the family, I don't exaggerate. And we need to recognise that, and until the council recognises that and gets people sat around the table, we are not going to make progress. It's just going to cost more and more taxpayers' money, and we're going to get more into this cat and mouse situation. There are creative solutions. People have come forward and said, what about if people started raising money through various means to support their trees? Because there are 14 out of 25 solutions, engineering solutions, that are covered by the contract. It's only 11, which might include flexi-pay and so on, which aren't, which might include need a bit of extra income. We've got to treat our trees as proper assets, value more than our roads, more than other things. And, not everything, but they are a very, very important part of the mix. We talked about lungs of the city before. So I would say, if I was elected, I would want to get all the players around the table. That has been done many, many times, but I think the election would send a very clear shot over the bounds. It's not going to harm Labour as a local authority. They've got a very large majority, but it would really give a very strong message. And it might protect their seats next year if they deal with it now rather than leaving it till next year.
Thank you, Rob.
I'm going to start with Rob's final point, because I think that's my starting point here. That I do think that the current position is not sustainable. I think that we do need a kind of a discussion that I think has ceased being had between people who are feeling passionate about the trees, between the local authority and its contractual responsibility. But also I think there's a third component in this that is often getting left out, which is those people who are living in kind of some streets within this ward who are wanting the kind of tree replacement programme to continue. And we know that there's been tensions within some streets here, and I think that it is tragic that if we're allowing this failure to communicate to actually impact on community cohesion. I think it's just criminal if that's allowed to happen. So we do need to kind of look at ways in which that we kind of get people listening and talking to each other again. Because I think it's also not just listening, but people are kind of shouting at the moment as opposed to talking. And I think that we need to examine both the kind of technical kind of solutions that may be around, identify those areas where there is agreement on trees that are coming down. And I think there are obviously some what might be seen as extreme positions that somehow, or no tree can come down. But I think the majority of people recognise that there needs to be a rational response. We need to get back to that rational response. I think the issue about the independent tree panel is a very interesting one, because I've been doing, in a sense, my homework, anticipating this question as well. I've been doing my homework, and I'm left thinking, well, what is actually the role of the independent tree panel in terms of if it's, my experience another life is that, having advisory groups that aren't listened to are worse than useless and actually counterproductive. So I'm not saying get rid of the independent tree panel, but that panel needs to be looking not just at the voices that are kind of well articulated, but also community voices that are less so. And finally, I just want to kind of pick up the issue of, because I think you quite rightly raised the issue of Rob about social care. I mean, the position that the local authority is in terms of its current revenue account is done out. The fact that it may or may not but should have got into these kind of contractual arrangements, but the fact is at this point it is in these contractual arrangements, and there needs to be maybe an objective look as to maybe how it could get out of them or not, if that is desirable. But I think it's premature to say at this point that they should be.
Thank you. James.
I'm going to add to the previous two. I mean, some great action there from Jim, I must say. One of the things that we've seen is that when the councillor who has now stood down, the Labour councillor, actually voted against Julie Dawes' command, was put on garden leave for a month. It would, you need courage and commitment to do that, Jim. And it's easy to talk about all these things that we want to do and we want to achieve, but the issues that have come up time and time again, this isn't a new issue now, it's going on for well over 18 months now, is that the Labour Council is not listening to the people. We've come on to loggerheads now with the tree campaigners, with the Labour councillors on the one extreme, and we're not meeting in the middle anymore. And me, I've been involved from the start as well. I think what we have to do, we have to be progressive, we have to move forward. This can't carry on like it is. We've seen the community tensions on St. Ronan's Road. And I've spoken to many people on this road. You know, they have real issues with trees on their road in regards to roots coming down to their cellars, water coming into their cellars. We have to look at some of the trees on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I live on Sheldon Road. A couple of those trees definitely need to come down. They're encroaching onto the main road itself. It's made dangerous. But we've now got to the point where no tree is being allowed to be cut down unless it's dead, really dead, and needs to go. I think we all need to come around the table, be mature about this. If tree campaigners, all the three parties, well, 4 parties, UKIP if they want to be, get around the table and sit down and look at, you know what, we need to see this contract. What is it that Labour Council can't get out of? You know, what did they sign up to that they can't get out of? You know, if they tell us, and I'm sure we can then look at a solution going forward together as the whole of Sheffield, rather than, we're at this loggerheads now where it's getting tired. I'm tired, I'll be honest with you, I'm tired of this. You know, I know people are tired. There's people who do want trees gone on some of the roads, and we have to respect their wishes as well, to a certain extent, depending if it is doing harm to that road or to the house or boundary wall, etc. But you know, we're at an impasse now where it's like, where do we go from here? There's no solution, neither from the council. You know, there's supposed to be a tree strategy that should have come out, God knows when. I think it was about 6 months ago, 8 months ago. That's not seen the light of day. You know, who's responsible? Tate Fox has gone. We've got somebody else, Brown Lodge. What do we do now that we move forward? I mean, we can talk all we want. We can stand here and say, look, this is what I'm going to do. We'll shout for you, you know, we'll go there and bang our heads against the wall, but it has to be done across party now. It's come to that stage that we have to get somebody else involved. Or I don't know the solution to that. I mean, if it was me, I'd grab some leaders of each of the parties, sitting around the table and say, with the tree campaign, and say, you sort out a solution, then come back to us. I'm flummoxed, I'll be honest with you.
Thank you, Shane. I have time for only one more question. So, Graham, Alison, after 5 seconds, you've yourself. I see Graham wants to come back in.
I just want to make a quick point about what Jim said, if I may, and that's about community cohesion. I believe it was the council's survey that actually split residents, asking residents on a particular street if they want to save their trees or not. Set neighbour against neighbour, and that was dreadful and shameful, and that shouldn't have happened.
Now we come to the last question, and by pure fluke or careful design by Alison here, the current group council for the area, it falls to her. Can I ask very brief, please,
yes.
Alison, and very brief answers, please, from you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, the Green Party are well known for working collaboratively, and in this ward there are 3 councillors, and not necessarily all with the same party. How would you, as an individual, if you will, manage to work collaboratively in this ward with the other 2 councillors?
Thank you. Shane.
Thank you, Alison. I don't know how collaborative your other 2 councillors have been with you. I have an inkling. But to be honest with you, we all get elected to represent the ward. We're all here to work for the community in that ward. We're not here for our own egos or to drive. I mean, we do have, you can have drivers. You know, you can have drivers. Each council can have his own little project that he wants to drive himself or herself, and others need to go along with that. But we all need to work together for the betterment of the community.
Thank you. Jim.
Nationally, I believe in a progressive alliance, and I think that in terms of Labour, Lib Dems and Greens and SNP, in terms of how that translates on a local level, I think I would like to see whoever is council to be working across that. And I would say that as a Labour Party activist, I would argue that I've demonstrated that I'm prepared to work across party barriers on that.
Thank you. Rob.
I absolutely agree. I think we've got a job to do. It's a great privilege and honour to represent people, and our job and our duty is to the people. And if that means we need to collaborate and work together and solve problems, then we should do that, absolutely.
Thank you. Right, that comes to the end of the actual audience Q&A. What I'm now going to do is ask each of the candidates to give a 2-minute roundup of their position and their last pitch, if you like, for your vote on Thursday. And this time we start with Robert Clark.
So mine's really quite short, you might be pleased to hear. Just to say that large majorities on a council are never good for democracy. We do need a stronger opposition that will hold the ruling party to account. And actually, you're in quite a lucky or privileged position here, because it really is a marginal ward. It is really close. We actually won a seat last time by 8 votes. So every single one of your votes really, really matters. But if you elect one more Labour councillor, however great Jim is, and we've worked together and good friends, it will not make a great deal of difference to the overall picture in terms of the complexion of the council. You will still have a thumping great Labour majority. However, another Green, well, first of all, it will put the Green group ahead of UKIP. They'll knock them down. But also one of my colleagues here, Councillor Murphy, I understand is going to be Deputy Lord Mayor next year, and Mayor a year later. It will actually give us a real voice. It's a real opportunity for the Greens to implement, to put pressure on the council in a good way, to really implement the green vision, to really make Sheffield a green city. Thank you.
I wish I could have said that. But what I would say is I think that it's important to kind of recognise, and I think this is often a perception that is encouraged, is that there is this kind of Labour group that is, everyone thinking the same. Within the Labour group, it's a wide range of views. I would probably be seen as one of the more awkward squad, partly just because I suppose I'm more prepared to challenge things, but also I'm probably going back to Progressive Alliance and more wanting to work with other people. In terms of where we're at, I'm not tribal Labour. In terms of what I think I've got from tonight, and particularly on the picture, is this thing about dialogue, and whether it's about the trees, or whether it's about kind of transport systems, or whether it's about how we manage our green spaces within the ward. I think we need to kind of create forums by which people can come together, and whether that's in buildings like this, or Holy Trinity, or Old Shower Juniors, where we cut across kind of party barriers. I think that we also need to be clear as a local authority that we must be more transparent and communicative. Trees are a good example of that, but again, it's wider than that. And also, as an individual politician, I am not into making gestures, and I don't want to kind of get into the thing of what's a gesture and what isn't, but I'm very pragmatic, and I actually want to do things that make a difference, and actually represent all groups within the ward, not just those that shout loudest.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. What can I say? We've heard a lot about what they want to do. You know what I've done? I've lived in this community all my life. I've done things in this community. At the moment, I'm working with the Sheffield Star through Link FM, a community radio station, on the Know Your Neighbour campaign. We're talking about community cohesion. You know what? We need people with new ideas, with people who can drive things, and I'm one of those people. What we need is a progressive, outward-looking focus, and we need to move away from anchors in the community. I will not let you down. I can't tell you what's going to happen in the next few years, but I can stand on my record and say with confidence I will be with you all the way. I think my advice to you guys is pick a candidate who can do the fun stuff and the tough stuff. Pick a candidate who's winning on a number of different issues, and somebody who's proven to deliver results and not rhetoric. I think you should really need to look at that. And I've been here fighting for the community for a long time. I'm standing against the council on a number of issues, and I'll be here afterwards, doesn't matter what happens on Thursday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And just one last time, if I can ask you to show your appreciation to candidate Shahid Ali for the Liberals, Liberal Democrats, Jim Steichen for Labour, and Rob Unwin for the Green Party.